A loaded slate at pitcher for today in MLB DFS. We've got like 5 or 6 legitimate pitchers you could consider for your lineups for today. Only one pitching slot in which to use them. So let's dive on in and break this thing down to get you set for tonight's 9-game main slate. Welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. My name is Jim Sanas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down Tuesday night's slate of MLB DFS and answer all your questions for tonight. We can talk about those pitchers. We can talk about stacks, one-offs, value plays, whatever is on your mind, general process for DFS. Put those questions in the chat section, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. It does not matter. Get those questions in, and we'll answer them live on air for today. And it's a pretty busy week here on the FanDuel YouTube page, specifically because not only do we have the solo shot and this Q&A as always, but also on Thursday, our first NFL podcast. That is on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. That will be up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed later in the day, but also being recorded live on YouTube. So if you want the information earlier, make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. on the FanDuel YouTube page to check that out with myself and Brandon Gadula getting you set for week number 1. Also on Friday, it'll be me with Brandon Gadula and JJ Zachariason breaking down the week 1 slate, potentially doing a snake draft live on air. That will be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Then we'll still have this Q&A right afterwards at 4 p.m. So no matter where you are watching, make sure you are subscribed to get notifications as we go live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We'll be answering, I think, some questions on Friday as well, to be determined with regards to the snake draft and to be determined if we actually do the snake draft. But regardless, either way, we will be here for you. First question for tonight comes from Mateo. I see that Luke Weaver has issues with lefty bats, so I like the Dodgers left-handed bats. What do you think? I honestly think, Mateo, you can probably go with the righties as well. I would probably give some preference to the lefties because the Dodgers do have good lefties and Weaver is a righty. So I think that it's good to go at the lefties for sure. But Weaver doesn't seem to be that overpowering against righties either. Let's pull up his splits here and see what exactly he has done. This is a small sample because we're looking at just 2020 splits here for Luke Weaver, and we're going to get some issues here because it's a 71 total batter sample against righties so far this year. Strikeout rate is actually lower for Weaver against righties than lefties, and over such a small sample, you want to put more emphasis on strikeout rate than any other stack. A strikeout rate can stabilize over like 60 or so plate appearances. Weaver's strikeout rate against righties is actually lower. So I would say go with the Dodgers, yes, but go with both the righties and the lefties. Obviously, again, we're going to prefer the lefties. We want to put more weight in, large samples, and the large sample on the Dodgers lefty is probably going to be that they're really good against righties. But Mateo, I would also say be okay including the righties in that equation. Alvin, favorite bats in a Mets stack. So let's pull up the Mets lineup here. I believe this is posted over. Nope, not yet here. But it is posted, so we'll go over here and check out the Mets lineup. So Jeff McNeil is a lefty. I'm okay with Conforto. Conforto, we talked about today on the solo shot. I'm okay with him despite the fact he is facing a lefty. McNeil against lefties, since it started last year, 13% strikeout rate, 34% earned hit rate, but a good results for Jeff McNeil. So although I'm going to favor J.D. Davis, Just Dongs Davis, and Todd Frazier, those two guys at $2,600, probably the first guys I would include. I would say McNeil is an option. Let's actually build this out, though, because Lance Lynn is my favorite pitcher for tonight. So let's put Lance Lynn in there. I'm going to put J.D. Davis in there first. Help if I spell it right. Ooh, how many times will it take to spell J.D. Davis's name right? There we go. Todd Frazier. Okay, if I do that, I actually probably won't need to use Jeff McNeil because McNeil is 30 or 27, I think. Yeah, McNeil's 27. I'm going to go Conforto. And I'm going to go Alonso. I think Alonso's 36 or 37, somewhere in there, 37. If I do that, I've got 35-25 left for the other stack in my lineup. That's doable even if I want to go at the Padres or the Dodgers. So I would say if you're looking for the big four for me, Alvin, I would say it's Frazier, Alonso, Davis, Conforto. I would say in order, Davis 1, Frazier 2, Conforto 3, Alonso 4, just because I like the salary savings out of Conforto. So that's my ranking for the Mets hitters for today. But if you do need value, like if you're trying to get to Walker Buehler, then I think that McNeil does work there. I would just rank him lower than the other guys. Cody is playing one lineup in cash and GPP. What pitcher do you prefer? I think for both formats, my number one guy for tonight is going to be Lance Lynn. Lynn has a tough matchup tonight because the Angels are a good offense. So it's not a good matchup for Lance Lynn. And that can make things tough in DFS if we're talking about cash games, because we do want to target softer matchups, and Lynn does not have that. But the reason I like Lance Lynn for cash games, despite the fact that the matchup is tough, is A, he's going to go deep in the game, and that kind of gives him a really good floor. Look back at his last game. He got rocked by the Astros, gave up 6 earned runs. It was not a good outing, but he still scored 21 FanDuel points in that game, and that's kind of what you get from a pitcher who will go 6 innings every freaking start and is going to get 6, 7, 8 strikeouts because he goes so far in the game. That gives you a really solid floor, but he also has upside too. 27 or 28% strikeout rate this year for Lance Lynn, 27% for him, and a 4.03 skill interactive ERA. So the floor is good as a result of that, despite the fact he's facing a tough matchup. So I'm going to say Lance Lynn is my pitcher for both cash games and for tournaments for tonight. If you don't want to go at Lance Lynn, it gets tougher after that. I would say probably just go Walker Buehler and take advantage of the good matchup against the Diamondbacks. 81 WRC plus against righties. That definitely works. Andrew Heaney, his profile scares me because he lets up a lot of hard contact, but the Rangers are really bad against lefties, so Heaney could be a discussion for cash games. But for me, I want the guy at home, and I want the guy who's going to go deep in the game, and that's Lance Lynn. So I like Lynn most for both cash games and for tournaments. James, how do you like the White Sox against Musgrove? So I'm a big Musgrove guy, so I don't tend to stack a lot against him. Let's look at his numbers here. Just came off the injured list, so I want to see specifically what Musgrove did in his most recent start, because we can always see changes when pitchers come off the injured list. Maybe their velocity won't be the same. Maybe they won't be able to throw their off-speed stuff as much. So that's the things I want to look for here with Joe Musgrove. Musgrove faced the Cubs in that first start, and he had a 19.6% swinging strike rate. That is really good. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's see the pitch type here. Did lean on his four-seamer a bit more than he had been. I guess about equal, I guess. Threw a lot of sliders. That's a good thing for him. A lot of curveballs, too, so no concerns about health there. Velocity is the best it's been all year. So Joe Musgrove actually, in that first start back, it was a small sample because it was just 3 innings, so he wasn't fully stretched out, but looked really good. So I would probably be off the White Sox for today, given what Musgrove did there, given what Musgrove did at the end of last year, his final 10 or so starts. So I think that's enough where I'm going to avoid the White Sox for today. It's a good question because Musgrove's results have not been good, 6.62 ERA, but I like what I see in that one start against the Cubs. So probably no White Sox for me. Alvin, I know they suck, but do you have any interest in the Pirates or the Reds? So the Pirates, in theory, have a good matchup with Dylan Cease, but look at this. Look at all that green. That's just for Dylan Cease. If we go to the hitter side and look at the Pirates from a stacking perspective, we're going to see a whole lot of red when it comes to looking at that individual team. It's also not a great park. It's okay today because it is warmer there than it is most other spots, but I honestly can't get myself to find individual batters on this Pirates team who I actually want to use. Let's pull up their numbers here against righties for 2020 and see if maybe I'm just being dumb and ignoring something here in my haste to dismiss the Pirates. Yeah, there's nothing here. So no, I can't go with the Pirates personally. It's a good matchup, but I just can't do it. As far as the Reds, the one thing I would mention there is that it's a really bad park for hitting for tonight, not only because of the wind, which we talked about this morning, heavy winds blowing in at Wrigley Field at 17 miles per hour, but it's also cool, 65-degree temperatures there, and I believe that's the coolest on the slate. Tied for the coolest with the Tigers-Brewers game, so cool temperatures, winds blowing in. I actually think the Reds are okay, so it's not that I dislike them individually. I just dislike their situation for today. So I will be avoiding the Pirates and the Cubs, even though stacks are pretty wide open for today. So personally, I'm not going there for tonight. Aaron, thoughts on the White Sox and Braves stacks with Dylan Cease? I would be hesitant on the portions of that just because Sixto Sanchez is really good. We got a question from Facebook about him in a second. Sanchez, good numbers. I'm not stacking against him. So no Braves for me. The White Sox, we just talked about them. And Dylan Cease doesn't get enough strikeouts. Got a really lively arm, and it's a great matchup. But, like, Lance Lynn's also low salaried, so I don't really need to go as low as Cease in order to get a good pitcher. So I'm going to go with no on those options there. So Danny asked about Sixto Sanchez, as did James over on YouTube. So let's talk about Sixto Sanchez for today. There are some tugging things that kind of, I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it. That's a stupid way to phrase it. There are conflicting signals when it comes to Sixto Sanchez. I think he's good because you look at his numbers this year so far. He's got the results are good, 2.76 skill interactive ERA, 27% strikeout rate, no walks. Those are all really good. And he backs up the strikeout rate with a 13.9% swing and strike rate. So all good numbers there for Sixto Sanchez. That's all good. The reason that hesitant to buy in there is that the strikeout rate in Double-A last year for 18 starts was 11.6% swing and strike rate, 24% strikeout rate. That to me says his strikeout rate will probably come down as the sample expands. And the Braves are good. The Braves have a 129 WRC plus against righties this year. So I think that the strength of the Braves and the concerns of potential regression are enough for me to say Sanchez will be lower on my list among the pitchers for tonight. So, like, if I'm doing a couple lineups, I'm probably not going to get to Sanchez, but, like, for multi-entry, he makes sense because he's really good, and there is a chance that all the strikeouts stick around. If they do stick around, he's an awesome play. So I would say he's behind all of Lance Lynn, Andrew Heaney, and Walker Buehler for me, but he's at least in play, and I'm definitely not stacking against him. So hopefully that answers your questions with regards to Sixto Sanchez for tonight. Steve, do you think we need a different strategy for the 7-inning games? So yes, you would, because pitch counts will naturally be lower. However, FanDuel is not including any of the 6-inning games on their main slates. So I think they had a time last week where they had a separate slate because there were like 16 doubleheaders, and they had the first game of each doubleheader on the main slates. They're not doing that for the other ones in general. So, like, every game you look at for today on the main slate for FanDuel is going to be a full 9-inning game. So, yes, we do need to take a look at the 7-inning games, and that would change our process, but it doesn't really matter tonight because there won't be any in the main slate. And I think that FanDuel is not going to include any. At least they haven't so far. So I haven't had to really alter things too much there. I don't know about other sites, how they're handling it, but at least on FanDuel, they're not including those, which I appreciate because I don't want to deal with that headache. Chris on Facebook says, stick to mini stacks. It's the way to go for tonight. If you look at the data, mini stacks are not nearly as profitable as having at least one 4-player stack in your lineup. And I think for today, I can make 4-player stacks pretty easily. So I understand the sentiments and I understand wanting to go that way. But if you let's say you do 4 2-player stacks, that means you need 4 pitchers to struggle. And you're counting on 4 different offenses to excel. Whereas if I stack the Mets and the Padres, I'm counting on 2 offenses. So I would still stick with the 4-person stacks even for today. Alvin, process question. Do you pay attention to xwOBA for pitchers or hitters? Yes, xwOBA is really good because so let's talk about Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver has good peripheral numbers so far this year. 4.05 skill interactive ERA, 26% strikeout rate. Those are good peripheral numbers. However, his results are bad. The reason the results are bad is because he allows a lot of hard contact with a 49% hard hit rate. And I don't have the numbers pulled up with me right now, but I'd assume that if you look at Luke Weaver's xwOBA, and Alvin's referring to numbers you can find over on Baseball Savant, I would assume if you look at Weaver's xwOBA, his expected weighted on base average, it's probably going to be closer to his results than what his peripherals would indicate. So yes, I think there are a lot of situations in which xwOBA can be really helpful because it is going to do a better job of accounting for pitchers who are at the polls, whether they allow a lot of hard contact or don't allow any. It's going to do a better job of encapsulating the expected output of those pitchers than other stats will. The one word of caution I would say is that batted ball numbers take longer to stabilize than strikeout rate. So in general, I'm okay with skill interactive ERA because it focuses so much on strikeout rate. That number is going to stabilize more quickly than the batted ball numbers of pitches allow. So that's why I focus on skill interactive ERA over xWOBA. However, I think there is a lot of value in xWOBA, Alvin, especially at the polls. So like guys like Luke Weaver who are allowing a lot of barrels, allowing a lot of hard contact, there it's going to be very helpful to look at things like expected weighted on base average, and for pitchers who don't allow any hard contact. So like John Means last year probably wouldn't have been a good pitcher to look at xWOBA for because he did such a good job of limiting hard contact, got a lot of lazy fly balls, and expected weighted on base average will do a really good job of accounting for that. So yes, I think there is a lot of value in that, Alvin, and if you have time to integrate that in your process, I would recommend doing so because it can help, especially with pitchers who are at the extremes when it comes to some of their batted ball numbers. Let's talk a little bit here about why I am interested in Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney was a guy we discussed last week against the Padres. I liked him a lot, and I got lucky because that one worked out. And I kind of felt like that was playing with fire there, using Andrew Heaney in that situation. However, tonight's different. He's not facing the Padres. He's facing the Rangers. And the Rangers are not good. They're not good against anybody. They're especially not good against lefties. A 61 WRC plus, 29% fly ball rate, 26% strikeout rate, less than a 5% walk rate. So that's really bad. And Andrew Heaney is capable of generating upside. The reason I don't have Heaney above Lance Lynn for tonight is that he does allow a lot of hard contact, can be a bit of a riskier pitcher. Let's see what the pitch counts have been. Pitch counts have been really good. So he won 117 in that game. So the pitch counts are really good, but he's on the road too. So I would go Lynn over Heaney, but I think that Heaney is still a good play for tonight. Question from James over on YouTube. Padres and Detroit stacks. Padres very much, yes. I like the Padres quite a bit tonight facing Chichi Gonzalez. Gonzalez is the guy who bounced between AAA and the majors last year, didn't get strikeouts in either location. So I think that the Padres make a lot of sense. I think they are among the top stacks for today out of all batters. So Padres very much, yes. The Tigers are facing Adrian Hauser. Hauser's strikeout rate is really low, but he's one of those guys we were talking before who is at the extremes. And I think actually Sierra does a good job of encapsulating what he does. So 4.12 skill interactive ERA, I think that's actually pretty indicative of where he's at because he gets a ton of ground balls, doesn't allow a lot of hard contact. This for Hauser is over his past 4 starts. He's been throwing fewer four-seamers. I think he's been leaning more on a sinker in that time, and he's like getting like a 60-ish% ground ball rate or somewhere in that range. So I don't really have a lot of interest at all or any interest at all in the Tigers tonight, but the Padres, very much a team I'm looking to stack. The Hauser ground ball rate this year, 64%. Yeah, that's not something I want to stack against. Like the ERA is not good, but here is a situation where I would trust the skill interactive ERA over the straight up ERA because he is one of those guys who lives at the extremes. Low hard hit rate. The league average hard hit rate this year is about 42%, or league-wide hard hit rate is 42%. He's at 35% there. Tons of ground balls, and I think we pull up the StatCast numbers here too. Probably would tell a similar tale. Yeah, a negative launch angle. So I'm definitely okay avoiding the Tigers for today. We haven't talked a ton about stacks, so let's talk about some stacks I actually do like. Since I'm going to poo-poo every stack recommendation, I might as well say some that I like. Mention the Padres. I think they are near the top of the list, a team that makes a lot of hard contact, facing a pitcher who doesn't get many strikeouts. That's a really good formula. So I think the Padres are near the top. I do like the Dodgers facing Luke Weaver. Talked about this with Alvin before, where like he's allowing a lot of hard contact, and I think that's super valuable, especially against a team that puts so many balls in play, does so much damage when they do so. And also the Dodgers just saw Luke Weaver last week, and Weaver was not bad against them, but his swinging striker is around 8.7%. That's kind of low, and he let up a lot of fly balls. Hard hit rate was still about average, so now they see him a second time in pretty good hitting weather because they're keeping the roof open in general at Chase Field. I think that's a situation that does push us towards stacking the Dodgers. So I would say Padres, Dodgers, and then the other stack I like for tonight is the Mets. We talked about them before, went through some stacks with them. So I think that the Mets, Dodgers, and Padres are going to wind up being my top stacks for tonight. Mentioned on the solo shot this morning, I also don't mind the Marlins just because Kyle Wright has been walking a lot of batters, and that can lead to some pretty rough outings. Walks are annoying for DFS because you only get the 3 points for them, but they also give you additional exposure to middle relief pitching. They get you extra volume, get you extra chances for runs scored and RBIs. There is value in it. It's really annoying, and I don't want to actively target high walk pitchers, but I think in this slate it does make sense. So once the Marlins release their lineup, like Corey Dickerson could be a good option there. Jesus just asked about value stacks. I think that the Mets and the Marlins are the two best value stacks of tonight. Alvin, last question. How much do you factor in StatCast for hitters when deciding which hitters that you want? It kind of depends, I guess. I think that, Alvin, the situation in which I look at StatCast most is trying to decide hitters who I really can't get a good read on, or hitters who may be experiencing major changes. So let's think of an example of this. Like, let's say Tommy Edman is, I don't even think he's on the main slate, so I don't know why I'm talking about Tommy Edman. I was researching him for a season-long league this morning where I wanted to see if I should add him or not. Like, if I have a hitter who I'm trying to decide, okay, how do I want to handle this batter going forward, then I will look at xwOBA, because you see the hard hit rate is low with Edman, but I can also, look at other data and see, okay, does the xwOBA say that he's due for some positive regression, et cetera, et cetera. The reason that I prefer, or I value xwOBA more when it comes to pitchers than hitters, is that xwOBA factors in strikeout rates. And part of my process with DFS a hitter is trying to lower the number of expected strikeouts for my hitter. And that means essentially targeting low strikeout pitchers. So what I care more about is what they do when the ball is in play. And there's a stat you can use a baseball savant for that. It's xwOBAcon, their expected WOBA when they make contact. That's going to be a good number that I want to look at, because I want to know how much oomph do they put in the ball when they do make contact, because my baseline assumption is going to be that they make contact because I am actively targeting low strikeout pitchers like John Means. Like, he's not going to get strikeouts. So I want to know what happens when they put the ball in play. So I would say for pitchers, look at xwOBA, because strikeout rate matters a lot there. For batters, minimize the strikeout rate, and then look at a number like xwOBAcon. Again, expected weighted on base average when they make contact. That'll be a number that matters more for me when it comes to selecting hitters for DFS than anything else. So hopefully that makes sense. xwOBA does matter because strikeouts are bad and it means it's not a ball in play. But part of my stack selection is minimizing strikeouts. That's why I look more at xwOBAcon versus xwOBA when it comes to hitters as far as StatCast goes. But yeah, StatCast is a really good tool to lean on when it comes to both pitcher and hitter selection. That is all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you, as always, for asking really good questions. I love the mix of getting both process and individual stuff in there. Actually, just got it from Robert. So Robert asked best pitchers for tonight. Went through this a bit before, but Lance Lynn 1, Walker Buehler or Andrew Heaney number 2. I'm kind of going back and forth. I settled on Buehler this morning, but now I'm kind of leaning towards Andrew Heaney. So let's do it. Lance Lynn 1, Andrew Heaney 2. Let's pray the under hits in the Rangers versus the Angels, and that's the way I'll rank them for tonight. Walker Buehler 3, Sixto Sanchez 4, Mike Clevenger 5. Those are my definitive rankings for tonight for you, Robert, over on Facebook. We are going to see you once again tomorrow. We have the solo shot at 9 a.m. and then this Q&A at 4 p.m. And again, don't forget on Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have our Week 1 NFL preview with myself, Brandon Gadula, and JJ Zacharyson. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages. Wherever you want to watch, you can find us. We'll get your questions answered for both MLB and NFL throughout this week. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck for tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.